The day I saw the Instagram post, I had just come back from chemo. My mouth was coated in that strange metallic taste I still can't describe, and my scarf was damp from the rain that always seemed to come down harder when I left the hospital. I remember sitting at the bus stop, hands shaking not from the cold but from whatever it is they drip into me to keep me alive. I unlocked my phone, just needing a distraction from my own body. That's when I saw it. A pastel pink nursery. White, walls trimmed with golden decals. A hand-painted mural of angel wings behind a rose-colored crib. Matching velvet curtains. The caption read, "Can't believe this is real. Thank you to everyone who helped us build this." For baby Lila, it had 264 likes and at least 40 comments. One from my mother. "So proud of the mama you're becoming. She's going to have the most beautiful start." I just stared. The rug in the nursery matched the one I used to have in my bedroom before they packed my things into the garage, before they told me they needed the space. They never told me they used the money. I first set up the fundraiser after my second round of tests confirmed it. Stage 2. Treatable, yes, but expensive. My insurance only covered so much, and the rest was up to me. I didn't want to ask, not really, but my friend Kara insisted. She made the GoFundMe. She wrote the blurb. Let's help her fight with dignity. We raised $27 out of $340. I never touched half of it. Not because I didn't need it, but because whenever I asked Mom about the payments, she'd say things like, "Don't worry. I already handled it. We're keeping it safe in the family account. You need to rest. Don't stress about bills right now. Focus on healing, sweetheart." So I focused. I trusted. I focused on the nausea, and the hair in the sink, and the way I couldn't breathe after walking up the stairs. But I remember now. The baby shower invitations went out just 2 weeks after my third treatment. They held it at the community center, with the rose garden, the one I used to say I'd get married in someday. They said it was more affordable than a full hall. I wasn't well enough to attend. My body was still recovering from the blood transfusion that week. I told them early on, even tried to smile when I said it. "Don't worry if I can't make it, just send me pictures." No one ever did. I only saw glimpses through posts I wasn't tagged in. Snuck onto the app when I couldn't sleep. Photos of my sister, Rachel, glowing in soft peach tulle. Her husband with a ribbon pinned to his chest. Dad-to-be. A dessert. Table with tiered macaron towers and a giant balloon arch that said Lila's Garden. No one mentioned me. Not once. I remember the moment I asked. It was a week after the Instagram post of the nursery. I was sitting on the edge of the living room couch, legs tucked under me, and the heating pad wrapped across my back. My voice came out too soft. I didn't mean it that way. I just couldn't hold much volume anymore. "Hey, Mom, can I ask, where did the rest of the fundraiser go?" She didn't look up from folding baby clothes. "What do you mean?" "The GoFundMe. I only used like half, just wondering if it's still in the account or—" "Oh, honey," she said, as if I was asking something silly. "We had to move some things around." "Around?" "For the nursery. For Rachel and the baby. I thought you knew." I stared. That was cancer money. She blinked. A beat. "It's all family, sweetie. You said you were covered for this round, and Rachel's due any day. We all have to make sacrifices." I nodded. I didn't say a word, but something in me shifted. Something silent and final. I didn't cry that night. I just lay in bed and stared at the ceiling until morning. I started noticing things I hadn't let myself see before. The way the fridge was full of prenatal, vitamins and oat milk for Rachel, but nothing for my nausea. The way my heating pad kept going missing, only to reappear in her room. The way they played lullabies in the hallway now, even when I was trying to sleep off a migraine. I thought I was being dramatic. I thought maybe I was selfish. Maybe I was making it about me. Until I overheard Rachel say, "I hope she doesn't make the birth all about her illness." And Mom replied, "She'll be fine. She just likes attention." I never corrected them. I never defended myself. I just started making my own quiet plans. It started with the laundry. Small, quiet things. I stopped folding everyone else's. I'd been doing it out of habit, a leftover from before I got sick, when helping out was how I earned my place in the house. But something about folding Rachel's nursing bras while my own skin blistered from radiation. It just made me stop. I started keeping my laundry in a basket under my bed, washed it on off hours, wore the same sweatshirt 3 days in a row and no one noticed. Or maybe they noticed and didn't say anything. Either way, it felt like something had peeled back in me, like an old curtain torn loose at the corners. They didn't ask if I needed anything anymore. They used to, in those first few weeks before my hair fell out, before I looked like an obligation. Now, it was all about Rachel, her swollen ankles, her back pain, her baby registry. Even the doctor appointments I used to need rides to. Now I just quietly booked the medical shuttle myself, sat in the back, between older women who smelled like peppermint and wool. No one asked why I stopped needing a lift. I remember one day in particular. It was raining again. The kind of cold, spring rain that makes the world smell like wet bark and rust. I came back from the hospital early, too nauseous to finish treatment. I stepped through the front door and saw the hallway filled with gift bags, dozens of them, labeled with pastel tags. For baby Lila, with love. I stepped over them and walked toward the kitchen. Rachel was sitting at the table, surrounded by wrapping paper and tiny shoes. My mother was spooning soup into a bowl that smelled like ginger and bone broth. "You're home early," my mother said, her back still turned. "Yeah," I said. They had to pause it. My white blood cells were too low. She turned just enough to glance. "You should eat something." She didn't offer the soup. That night, I searched my email inbox for the GoFundMe login, the one Kara had sent me when she first created it. It took 20 minutes to find. It had been buried under medical reports and pharmacy updates. When I opened the page, I saw it was still live, still public. The most recent donor had written, "Praying for your strength. Hope this helps in some small way." It was dated 2 days ago. I closed the tab. I didn't delete it. But I took down the photo of my face smiling in a hospital gown. I replaced it with a gray square. Then I turned off donations. I started keeping notes. Not out of revenge. Not really. More like accounting. Quiet facts. Just for myself. April 12th. My nausea meds ran out. No one asked if I needed a refill. April 14th. They had a maternity photo shoot in the backyard. I wasn't invited. April 20th. Mom used the word sacrifice. Again, said I was lucky to live rent-free. April 22nd. Rachel asked if I could watch the baby once she was born. She said, "You're home all day anyway." I wrote it all down in a notebook I hid inside a worn-out copy of Jane Eyre. Sometimes I'd reread it before bed, not to stir the anger, but to remind myself it was real, that I wasn't imagining it. The guest room, my room, was slowly being repurposed. First, they moved my books to the attic, said they needed the shelves for storage. Then they took the desk, then the mirror. I wasn't even mad anymore. Just numb. Like I was watching a play where I wasn't the lead anymore. Maybe I never was. At night, I would lie on my mattress and count the cracks in the ceiling, whispering a strange kind of mantra to myself. I exist. I exist. I exist. One afternoon, I came home to find my mother rearranging the hallway closet. She looked up at me with a stiff smile. I was thinking we should move your things out. Rachel could use the space for diapers. I nodded. Sure. You don't mind? I didn't answer right away. Then I said, no, I'll move them this week. But I didn't move them to another closet. I packed them in boxes and took them out to the car Kara had let me borrow for errands. I drove them to a storage unit I opened in my own name. It was small, cold, cement floor and one hanging light, but it was mine. I left the boxes there and locked the door. That night, when my mom asked where my things went, I just said, I gave them away. And she didn't ask anything else. There was a moment, a small one, that changed something in me. It was early May. The trees were blooming outside, pollen collecting like frost on the car windshield. I had just come back from the pharmacy, still dizzy from the ride, when I saw Rachel crying in the living room. Not the soft, overwhelmed kind of crying. The tantrum kind. I told you I wanted the diaper warmer from the registry. Not that knockoff brand. Mom was trying to soothe her. It's temporary, sweetheart. We'll get the right one next month. Rachel threw the box across the couch. It's not fair. I shouldn't have to settle just because she has medical bills. She didn't whisper it. She said it like she knew I was there. And Mom didn't flinch. She didn't correct her. She just said, let me see if we can shift things around again. Later that night, I opened my banking app. I had maybe $217 to my name after bills, and still one copay due next week. I stared at the screen for a long time before clicking into the settings. There was a shared bank account, one I had opened when I was 19, when Mom said we could manage things easier that way. It was the same one she'd insisted we keep linked for the fundraiser disbursements. For weeks I had been debating. Was it petty? Was it wrong? But then I thought of the nursery, the balloon arch, the absence of soup. I quietly logged in and removed myself as an authorized party. I clicked, withdraw consent to shared access. Then I opened a new account. Just mine. No one's name on it but mine. That was the first quiet reversal. I started noticing how many things they still used my name for. The Amazon account. The streaming services. Even the pharmacy rewards card. Rachel once joked, we should just make you our official admin. Everything's easier with your info. So I started deleting. One by one, I changed the passwords. Logged out of the apps. Removed. Payment methods. No warning, no speech. Just absence. Then came the baby shower thank you notes. They were printed and stacked on the kitchen counter one morning. Glossy, pastel, and filled with glitter glue. I wasn't listed among the special thanks. Kara, who had given me her car, was. So was Mom's co-worker who gifted them an embroidered onesie. But not me. I started disappearing from other places too. Stopped replying in the family group chat. Let calls go to voicemail. Unlinked my name from the utilities. I'd quietly been helping pay for the internet this whole time. They noticed only when it stopped working. One night, Rachel knocked on my door. a rare thing now. I opened it slowly. She looked tired, but sharp around the eyes, like she was saving her sweetness for someone else. "Hey, Mom said you changed the streaming login? Can I get the new password?" I didn't fake politeness anymore. "No." She blinked. "What do you mean, no?" "It's under my name, my card. I'm not paying for it anymore." "Seriously?" Her voice pitched upward. "Over what? A baby registry? Grow up." I looked at her then, not with anger, not even sadness, just that new kind of stillness I'd been cultivating. I did grow up. That's why I stopped giving. Everything away. She left without another word. I think the final shift happened on a Tuesday, the day Rachel went into labor. Mom called me from the hospital. I saw her name flash across the screen while I sat at the bus stop again, hands folded, in my lap like they belonged to someone else. I didn't answer, not out of malice, not even to punish, just because, for once, they weren't my emergency. That night, I sat in my room alone. I lit a candle Kara had given me, lavender and sandalwood, and ate a bowl of soup I made for myself. No party, no baby cries, just quiet, and the soft hum of a space heater I bought secondhand. It was the first warmth I'd paid for that didn't come with a string attached. The baby was born the same night the fridge stopped humming. I remember it because the silence was so strange. I didn't realize how much noise it made, that low, constant whir, until it wasn't there. I opened it, hoping maybe it was just a power glitch, but the light stayed off, and everything inside had already begun to sweat. The house was quiet otherwise. No cries, no text, just silence, except for the rustle of my own sweatshirt as I sat back down and sipped lukewarm tea. I thought about calling the power company, but I didn't. I wasn't listed on the bill anymore anyway. They didn't tell me she was born, not directly. I found out through Facebook, a blurry photo of her tiny hand wrapped around Rachel's finger. A caption. "She's here. 6 little B's, 9 O's. Already the center of our world." No mention of who drove Rachel to the hospital, or who stayed home to care for the house, or who kept it, running all those months while everyone else was too busy building cribs and painting clouds. Just her. As if I never existed at all. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry. Not like before. There was just a floating kind of emptiness. Like I'd finally accepted I was an extra in someone else's story. They'd written me out so gradually I hadn't even noticed the fade. I was a backdrop character, the caretaker, the spare body. I sat at my small desk, the one I rescued from the garage, and opened the storage unit receipt. I flipped through my notebook, and for the first time in months, I took a deep breath that didn't feel borrowed. That week, I began packing. Not the frantic kind of packing that comes from rage or desperation. No slamming drawers, no taped-up boxes in the hallway. Just quiet organization. I folded my clothes gently, chose only the ones I liked. I donated the rest. I packed the books that meant something, the ones that saw me through sleepless chemo nights, and left the ones that used to make Rachel laugh. Unplugged the space heater, wrapped it in a towel, and slid it into the back seat of Kara's car. She had offered to help me move months ago. I just never said yes, until now. I left a note, not to explain, just to confirm. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't meant to hurt. It simply read, "I moved out. The storage key is gone. The GoFundMe is closed. I'm not angry, just done. Please. Don't call. M. I slid it under Mom's door before dawn and closed mine gently behind me. Kara met me outside with 2 coffees and a playlist she made just for the drive. We didn't speak much. She didn't ask questions. We just drove. Past the strip mall. Past the hospital. Past the community center where the baby shower had been. I watched it all shrink in the rearview mirror. Each mile was lighter. The new apartment was small. Barely enough room for a bed and a table. But it had windows that faced east and floors that didn't creak when I walked barefoot. I put my books on a shelf, plugged in the space heater, hung a single photo on the wall, me and Kara on a bench by the river, both of us laughing, my hair still short and patchy from treatment. I made tea, sat on the floor, listened to nothing. It was the most peace I'd known in years. Back at the Y house, I don't know if they noticed. I don't know if they cared. I never checked. I blocked the group chat, muted the accounts, turned silence into sanctuary. The new apartment smelled like old wood and sunlight. There was something comforting in that. How the light spilled unevenly across the floor in the morning, dust floating like soft confetti. Nothing was perfect. The faucet leaked if I twisted it too far, and the radiator hissed like it was catching its breath. But I loved it, because it was mine. No one else's voice down the hallway. No one rearranging my things. No pastel ribbons taped to my door. Just the hum of the heater and the sound of tea water boiling in the kettle Kara gifted me. I moved slowly in those first few weeks. Not out of illness, though my body still carried fatigue like a bruise, but because I was learning how to exist without flinching, without bracing for the next request, the next favor, the next erasure. I started walking again, just small laps around the block, bundled in a thick scarf with sleeves that covered my wrists. The air still burned a little when I breathed too deep, but it was different than before. It didn't feel like I was running from anything. It felt like I was arriving. Each step was proof. I'm here. Still here. There's a tree at the end of the street, right before the bus stop. I'd stop there most mornings and just lean against it. Watch the city breathe around me. No one knew where I was. No one cared to ask. And somehow, that became the most freeing thing. One morning, I walked to the corner bookstore, the one I used to pass 100 times when I still lived near the hospital but never went into because I never had the energy. The bell above the door jingled softly when I entered. The woman behind the counter smiled like I was someone worth seeing. "Cold morning," she said. "Yeah," I said, clutching my scarf. "But better than the quiet ones." She gave a small nod, like she understood what I meant without needing. It explained, I found a second-hand copy of The Bell Jar. The irony didn't escape me. I flipped through it and found a note tucked into the margins in someone else's handwriting. Sometimes we survive by becoming invisible, but healing starts when we decide we deserve to be seen. I bought the book, full price, and carried it home like it was an answer I'd waited years for. Kara came by the following weekend. She brought cinnamon rolls and fresh tulips, said I needed color in the room, and she was right. She asked how I was feeling, not out of habit, not as performance, but like she actually wanted the truth. I told her the treatments were working, slowly. My markers were stable. The doctors seemed hopeful. "And you?" she asked gently. "I'm learning to breathe again," I said, without asking permission. We didn't talk about the house, or Rachel, or the baby. She didn't bring it up, and neither did I. That silence felt different. Not neglect, but protection. Later that night, after she left, I scrolled through my blocked numbers list. Not to unblock anyone, just to look. Their names were still there, still waiting behind a wall I didn't plan to lower. I paused at Mom's. There had been no voicemails. No emails, just a single text from 2 weeks ago. When you're ready to come home, the door's open. But the truth is, I wasn't homesick. Not anymore. The house they built without me had never really been mine. And now, for the first time, I was building something different, something quieter, something soft. I didn't need to reply. I didn't need to explain. Some things are better left unspoken. It was nearly 3 months before I heard from them again. I'd begun measuring. Time in new ways, in empty mugs and folded blankets, in pages read and mornings I could wake without pain. Healing had become less about medicine and more about space. The quietness of my new life wasn't lonely. It was sacred. But then the text came. It was a Sunday. I was at the laundromat down the street, watching my clothes swirl in slow circles, sipping weak coffee from a paper cup. My phone buzzed once, then again. I didn't recognize the number at first. They must have used someone else's. But the message was clear. Hey, it's Rachel. I know things have been weird, but could you watch Lila this week? Mom's out of town and daycare's full. I stared at the screen. There was no apology, no acknowledgement of the months of silence, or the fundraiser, or the way I'd disappeared without them so much as knocking on my door. Just a request, like I'd never left. Like I was still a service they could call upon when convenience ran out. I didn't reply. Not right away. Not even the next day. I let the message sit there like a feather that never quite hits the floor. I reread it a dozen times, each one peeling back another layer of disbelief. And then I laughed. Not cruelly, not bitterly, just softly. The kind of laugh you let out when the irony is so sharp it doesn't even sting anymore. The next day, I got another message. I wouldn't ask if I had another option. Just a few hours. Then another. Please, I know you're not sick anymore. That one hurt in a different way. Not because it was true. I was still recovering, still dragging exhaustion behind me like a second spine. But because it was so easy for her to flatten me into a binary, useful or not. I was never a sister to her. Just availability in human form. I didn't block her. I wanted her to see the silence. To sit in the vacancy she had helped carve out. But I did type something, and this time, I hit send. I'm not available. I hope you find someone else. That's all. No apologies, no explanations. I didn't need to justify peace. A few days passed. No reply. Then one evening, Mom called. The name lit up on my screen like a wound I'd already learned not to touch. I let it ring. Watched the call fade into voicemail. She left one. Her voice, tentative, trying too hard to sound warm. I just thought maybe we could talk. Just talk. Rachel's been really overwhelmed, and I thought maybe, just for a few hours, you could... There was a pause. A sigh. And then she added, "You know this family needs you." That line. Those same 5 words that always unraveled. me before, but this time, they made me feel nothing at all. Later that night, I opened the notebook again, the one I used to keep in secret, back when I still lived with them. I flipped to a blank page and wrote, "I am not a placeholder. I am not a backup plan. I am not a second chance. I am not theirs anymore." Then I closed it, tucked it beneath my pillow like a quiet oath. The next morning, I made lemon tea, sat by the window, let the light reach my face. No new messages, no knocks, no apologies, just quiet. And the slow, beautiful realization that silence, when chosen, can be an act of love for yourself. It was raining again, not the kind that pours in sheets, but the light, persistent drizzle that settles into your bones. The kind of rain that asks nothing, just exists beside you. I had just finished rearranging the bookshelf. It sounds silly, but there's something calming about the way spines line up. Stories sitting in order, holding space. I made room for the newer ones, the ones I bought with my own money, the ones that didn't belong to anyone but me. That's when I saw it. A small envelope slipped under my door. No name, no handwriting, just ivory paper, tucked neatly, purposefully. I hesitated, then picked it up with both hands like it might vanish if I moved too fast. Inside was a single folded note, no letterhead, just a short message in soft blue ink. "You made it through the fire. You don't owe anyone your ashes." My throat tightened. It wasn't signed, but I knew the handwriting. Kara. Of course it was Kara, the only one who saw without needing to be told, the only one who never asked for proof of pain before offering kindness. I folded the note and slid it between the pages of the bell jar, just after the marked quote I'd found in the bookstore. There was something about the way the two messages sat together, a stranger's truth and a friend's reminder, that made my chest ache in a different way. Not grief, not resentment, something gentler, like being seen. Later that afternoon, I stepped outside with no destination in mind. Just walked, coat collar turned up, scarf pulled close. The rain fell in quiet rhythm against my shoulders, soft and forgiving. I passed the florist near the corner, the one I'd never dared enter back when I was too fragile to carry anything more than breath. But this time I went in. The air smelled like damp petals and soil. A woman arranging tulips looked up and smiled. "Looking for anything in particular?" Paused, then pointed to a small bouquet near the window. Not the roses or lilies, not anything loud, just a cluster of violets, tied with string. "These," I said. "They're quiet." She nodded. "They're my favorite too." I placed them in a chipped ceramic jar back home, set them on the windowsill beside the candle. The same one Kara gave me, the one I relit every night now, not out of ritual, but as a reminder that softness could still exist, that not everything had to hurt to matter. That evening, I received another text, not from Rachel, not from Mom. This one was from Kara. "Left something by your door. Hope it found you." I replied, "It did, and I'm keeping it." There was a pause. Then, "Good. You deserve soft things too." I turned off my phone, sat back in the chair by the window. The violets watched the sky darken with me, and for the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel forgotten. I felt free. The envelope was heavier than it needed to be. It arrived in early spring, the kind of morning where everything smelled like thawed soil and new beginnings. I almost didn't see it. It had fallen flat between the junk mail and an old electric bill. My name on the front, written in Mom's cursive. I held it like it might burn. Inside was a formal invitation. White cardstock, silver trim, an embossed bow. Lila's first birthday. Join us as we celebrate a year of love. There was a photo clipped to it, a glossy print of Rachel and the baby, both in matching pink dresses, balloons, a cake with a single candle, and for a moment it hurt. Not in the sharp, unforgiving way it used to, but like pressing on a bruise I thought had healed. There was no note, no apology, just the date, the time, and the place, as if I were a guest, as if nothing had happened. I left it on the counter for 3 days, unmoved, unopened again. Each time I passed it, I thought of all the other things they never said. We're sorry we spent your fundraiser. We should have brought you soup, not silence. We knew you were disappearing, and we let you, but none of those things had been spoken. Just an invitation now, to witness a milestone I had nothing to do with. Kara came over on the 4th day. She saw the envelope but didn't ask. She just poured tea and placed 2 cookies on a napkin between us like we were back in high school. After a while, I said quietly, "They want me to come, to the party." She took a breath, not rushed. "Do you want to go?" I didn't answer, right away. Instead, I looked out the window where the violets were blooming again, a little wilted, but still reaching for light. I spent the rest of the day tidying the apartment. Not because they were coming, but because I needed the stillness to feel clean. I refolded the blanket on the couch, washed the 2 cups, dusted the photo of me and Kara on the bookshelf. Then I took the invitation, slipped it back into the envelope, and dropped it in the trash. I didn't text. I didn't explain. I didn't show up. There was no dramatic goodbye, no scene, no confrontation, only silence. But this time, the silence belonged to me. The party came and went. I know because Rachel posted a video of Lila smashing a cupcake with her tiny fists. People clapped. Mom was in the background holding balloons. I watched it once, then muted the story and moved on. A few nights later, I sat on my balcony, wrapped in a shawl, breathing in the early summer air. A breeze moved through the curtains like a sigh. The candle burned low beside me, flickering against the glass jar. I opened the bell jar again. Found Kara's note still pressed between the pages. "You don't owe anyone your ashes." And I whispered it aloud this time, like a prayer or a closing door. I don't know what happens with them. I might never know, but in this small, warm space, I've learned how to exist without begging, how to rest without asking, how to belong, not to them, not to duty, but to myself. And that, I think, is the quietest kind of freedom.